so much, Amardeep, for being here. As Sandeep was sort of mentioning, we reached the 15th episode, so it's been a great journey, and many folks really look forward to this. We are right now in the school busy exam strokes, some for some school holiday season. But as you will see, there is some recording going on, and the normal model for many of Sunbeam schools is they will show the recording to their to the children. So, for those of you who are still not familiar with Amardeep, Amardeep is the director, executive producer, host of the docuseries that we are seeing. Lives in Singapore. Um, he's an engineer, went to the MIT in Manipal, and then he pursued his master's in business administration at the University of Chicago. He had a very successful corporate career. He spent 25 years in the world of finance. His last job was with American Express, where he was looking after revenue management. And then something happened, and his life really pivoted. And he has, after that, he authored two books: The Lost Heritage, The Sikh Legacy in Pakistan, and The Quest Continues, Lost Heritage, The Sikh Legacy in Pakistan. Uh, he is currently working on another production, which we were talking about when you may have joined, where he's working on the Indic saints. So, without much ado, let me hand it over to you, Amardeep. And again, just thanks a lot. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. So, always a pleasure to be with you all. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Great, great. So, what I intend doing now today is that I'll just summarize the key takeaways on this episode and we just play through the whole thing. So, if we recall, the last episode last month was episode 14, where his journey, Guru Nanak's journey, is got him into Sri Lanka, and from the east side of Sri Lanka, he entered from Nagapattinam in India and sailed into Sri Lanka through Jaffna, went all around to the island, and exits from the Adams Bridge, which is also known as Dhanush Kodi or the Ram Setu Bridge in the Indian term, but on the maps it's known as Adams Bridge as the name was given in the British era. And just to summarize, it was a beautiful message at the end of episode 14 last time, and I think it needs to be reinforced again. Is that the tales always have a deeper metaphoric meaning, and we need to try and see the tales from a metaphoric meaning perspective. So we have in the Indian traditions the scripture of Ramayana, which actually most of the people see it at a superficial level of just a fight between a king of Ayodhya and the king of Sri Lanka. But deep down, if you go down, it's a very, very deep message, because what Ram represents is our inner consciousness, right? And what Raman represents is the negativity through which we are actually fighting. We're actually going through this constant battle, right? And the bridge, which is connecting the goodness to the challenges. Both sides, the challenges and the goodness. There's a bridge that through which we transition, and that transition happens through training of the mind. So if you look at it, the narrative of Ramayana says that the monkeys, the Hanuman's Bandar Sena, Banar Sena makes that bridge. So if you really look at a metaphoric meaning, it's the mind which is like a monkey mind, right? Which keeps jumping from left to right. So by training that mind, what you can do is you can construct a bridge which takes you from negativity to positivity. That was the last message we left at episode number 14. So now Guru Nanak, through that region of Ram Setu Bridge, sails into the southernmost tip of India, which is known as Rameshwaram. Right now, Rameshwaram, there's a very large temple there, which you can still. It goes back many centuries before Guru Nanak's travel. It was a Shaivite shrine where the followers of Shiva would actually come together. Now, Guru Nanak gives a very profound message out here. Again, Guru Nanak was a follower of oneness, which intertwines everything. The more we look at, I think, the Bhakti period saints, we have projected them as with a God concept, right? Which kind of, when you have a God concept, the God concept, it's kind of a representation we give into forms of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, or could be Allah, or could be anywhere else. But what we say is that the God is separate from us, right? And most of the Bhakti saint period saints actually are all talking about the creation and the creator being one system, right? That means uh, the creator is the creation itself. That's what they reinforce, right? Now, Nanak, wherever he goes, and he's having these dialogues with spiritualists, he's emphasizing that we are part of one system. Somehow, at a superficial reading, when we read his verses, we tend to gravitate towards a God concept, but we have to move away from there to understand that he's talking about this entire creation and the existence being within us and we being a part of it, right? So that's the profound message which he gives, and this verse will be sung as Ek Niranjan Gurmukh Jata. That means Ek. He's coming back to always to the word Ek, 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 Ek. And if you read all his verses, he comes back to this time and again, Ek. He never goes to Do, right? And never goes to Teen, like the Trinity, or we say Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. He always goes to one, brings everything together to one. So once we start respecting the nature as one ecosystem, then the differences between you and me, or a tree and me, and an animal and me, it all starts collapsing because we are existing as one ecosystem. That's the profound message that he's giving out there. And then you'll find another, my own reflection in that episode happens thereafter. uh, and in that, Salima Khwaja, who's from Lahore, sings this uh, verse, another verse of Guru Nanak, where he's saying, "Sehas tab nain na nain hai tohe koi." He says, thousands of eyes you have, the creator, you have thousands of eyes, you have thousands of feet, right? Representing that every feet is yours. But at the same time, you have no feet and you have no eyes. So beautifully saying that you're present in every aspect of the creation, but yet you are not there, right? So that's the aspect where he's trying to reinforce the concept of oneness, that while you are not there as an entity, our mind tends to grasp the God concept as an entity. But when you start appreciating that the God concept is right within you, you probably will actually will be able to appreciate this interconnectedness of all of us, right? So that's the key message out here, right? Uh, he from there gets into Kerala, and you'll find an interesting message out here about sharing. So he goes to a Nath Jogi commune, and the Jogis challenge him about sharing. They said, "Okay, we're giving you a few sesame seeds, right? How can you share such a small quantity, right?" And what he does is he brings in a larger basket of grains, and he mixes the small sesame seeds inside them, and he pounds them, and thereby he's saying that the essence of that small a few sesame seeds has now got merged inside the entire thing, and you can share. So what the message out here is that even if you have very little, it's the intent to share which can find you ways to kind of connect with people. So it's the concept of uh, caring and sharing and being together, right? So I think that's the key message that he leaves here. Um, from there, he moves on to the central India. Uh, I'm going to just the key messages. You'll find a lot of messages, but I'm just leaving 4 5 messages out here, right? So he goes through this region of Andhra Pradesh, where in the in the in the in the jungles there's this there is still there's a tribe out there known as Koda, right? The Koda tribes, right? So he meets a few people of Koda tribe, and some kind of a conflict that happens. His companion, Bhai Mardana, gets caught by the people of the Koda tribe, and uh, and I think the key thing out here is that Nanak, without any conflict, through dialogue, he actually is able to resolve a situation which was a challenging situation, whereby his companion was caught by these Adivasis, and he's able to come out of it. So I think the key message out here is through dialogue, we can find conflict management. So the key out here is whenever you're in a problem, wherever you've got some problems happening and there's a conflict between two individuals, look for dialogues, because dialogues will get you solutions, right? That's the key message out here. Uh, we will make a detour from there, and we will get into contemporary or sorry, we will get into two saints who were not contemporary of Guru Nanak, but because what Guru Nanak, if you go back to the episode 3, when he visited Baba Farid's place at Pak Patan, which was in Pakistan, which is now in Pakistan, what he did was Baba Farid was about 250 years before Guru Nanak, right? And he started documenting his verses. And interestingly, those verses, along with 14 other saints' verses from the across the Indian subcontinent, from Bengal of Joydev or Kabir from Uttar Pradesh, Ravidas from Uttar Pradesh, and so many other saints across the Indian subcontinent, in totaling to about 15 saints. Their writings came into the scripture which Nanak's house later on documented, which we call as Guru Granth Sahib. But the problem, I think, is that it's such a the beauty of this whole thing is that it's such a beautiful integration of what we call as India today. Well, there was no political India at that point of time. There was a cultural subcontinent, right? And there were different kingdoms and there were different cultures. But how beautifully the mindset of these saints of the Bhakti period brought together the entire concept of a region into a scripture, which for the first time was happening. There have been great saints, there have been actually great teachers about their own wisdom. But here, what Nanak's travel did was he started seeding these concepts of bringing together the concepts of or the wisdom from these diverse saints across India, not from their geographies, from different geographies, and so on and so forth. So at times, I'm quite actually amazed. And I look at today's world where it's all got fragmented and people have not got the understanding. And I say, wow, at a time when there was no printing press, when there was no internet, how beautifully in the land of five rivers was seeded a concept of bringing together the concept of the Indian subcontinent. We don't see it anywhere else in this thing. So we have to step back and say what Nanak's house did and reflect as to where it's breaking down today, where the problems are occurring. Every society goes through problems. And that's why I keep bringing people back to saying that, look, what was his intent? What was he trying to do? Let's not forget that, right? So we will look at the lives of two saints which were before him. One is Trilochan from central India, and the second is Namdev. I'll focus basically on Namdev. There's a very profound message of Namdev out here. You see, it's interesting when you go into the traditional stories of these saints. Uh, let's say the example of the Islamic world, right? In the Islamic tradition, there is a saint known as by the name of Rabia, right? Uh, and it is believed that Rabia, when she went to Mecca in Saudi Arabia, so much was her love for the divine. It is said that the Makkah came towards her. Now, it does not mean that the Makkah actually moved, right, in the Islamic world. It means that the divine embraced her. That's what it implies, right? Now, similarly, when Guru Nanak went to Mecca, and there's a story that's associated with him that when he was lying down, Jivan got there was a person in Mecca. He got offended that Nanak's feet were pointing towards Mecca, so he told him to move his feet away. And Nanak said that move my feet wherever you want to, where the divine doesn't reside. That means omnipresence. The divinity is everywhere, right? So that's the key message out here. Now, in Namdev's case, there's an co- interesting similarity in the narrative that happens at this place called Onda Nagnath, right? And Onda Nagnath is a Shaivite temple, uh, and Namdev was from a lower caste. The beauty of the Bhakti saints is that they come from diverse castes, upper, lower, and so on and so forth. Namdev being from a lower caste, and he was basically imbued in the love for divine and the nature. And when he was singing out there, some of the higher caste people objected and they threw him out of the temple. So he went behind the temple and he sat down and he started singing there. The narrative says the temple's uh, gates turned around and faced towards Namdev. Now, whether this can happen in reality, we're not going to get into that question, right? Of course, science will say that cannot happen, right? But look at the intent, look at the metaphoric meaning out here. It means that when you are imbued in the love and you are actually so much in focus of what you want to achieve, that energy moves towards you. So his and even if therefore it goes down into your purpose of your life, sometimes you pick up. uh, purposes that we want to achieve, and it seems very tough. But because you are determined, because you are in love with it, you will find that energy embraces you. And the same thing applies here. While it looks like a God concept, but the fact is that he was so imbued in it that the entire gates of that temple turned towards him. And that again shows, like all these narratives, that when you are actually trying to achieve something, that energy is also trying to attract you towards itself. That's what it means out here. I will give the last message out here, which is my favorite message. Is The episode will end with a very powerful message, and if you can take away this one message, take away this one message from it, it'll end right with well. So there is this tree in the Indian subcontinent, all across the India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, and as well as Pakistan. You'll find this tree. It's known as the Semal tree. Semal tree is actually it 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 is not cotton, but it's a cotton like fruit that is there inside it, right? But its flower is very attractive. It's a very bright orangish flower, and you have a lot of these simil trees also in the valley of Dehradun, where I am actually right now. In fact, just today morning I saw one of the simil trees, and I was standing and then observing it. Exactly what Guru Nanak is saying. He says uh, a simil tree. He takes a correlation of a simil tree to our human body, which looks to be very attractive because simil tree is a very large tree, and it has these bright flowers which attract the birds towards itself, right? Uh, so what he's drawing a parallel or a parallel to our body by saying that our body is like a simil tree. It is big, it's strong, and it's standing there, right? That represents the me, the I, the ego. I mean, I'm attached to it. I'm big. We all feel that, invincible and nothing can stop us, right? So we are like that symbol tree. We are standing and making a statement about ourselves. And we think we look beautiful. We think we look beautiful because we are attracting all energies. We think so, right? And similarly, on a symbol tree, there are these beautiful flowers that are sprouting there, very attractive flowers. And then these birds come flying towards those flowers in the hope that the attraction of the flower is going to have something beautiful for them to eat inside, right? And they go and sit on these flowers and they start eating it, right? As they eat it, they find there's no nutritional value inside it really because it's just like cotton. The seed has just like cotton. They say in Punjabi, they say, uh, uh, Buck baka is to eat something which has got really nothing inside. It's just like cotton. It's just fluffy, right? So the what we think as a body and us to be very very egoistic and very very beautiful, and we think we are the ones. The fact is, you're nothing but just like a fruit of a symbol tree, having no value inside it, and it's just fluffy. You're just filled with all fluff, right? And when those birds get down and eat the seeds, they find the seeds to be so sour and so bitter that they just spit them out. They can't even take them inside. So as we get closer to any human, we understand that the nature of the person, even though he's projecting to be so great, the fact is there's no value inside that person. Now, it doesn't mean that no person has value. It doesn't mean that. It's just making us realize and reflect that what value do we create? Who are we? We're just like a symbol tree. So it teaches us humility, right? Don't be so much in the ego, and don't be so much about yourself, and just try and learn from this symbol tree. So I'll stop there. Any questions? I can take it right now. Otherwise, we can take it at the end. Any question at this point of time? I'm happy to take.
No, Sandeep, let's go.
I have a question.
Advik,
This Semal tree
yes,
is
you
the
have a
one which has a
question.
large fruit, Amardeep, which that largest fruit which falls also. Is it that tree?
It's yeah, it's a very large tree, but it's all around Dehradun. It's that
Yeah,
orange red kind of a flower.
absolutely. But does it also have a fruit ultimately?
It has inside it,
It has inside it.
inside it,
But you
inside
see
that
the
flower it has.
you see the fruit fallen on the ground sometimes.
Yeah, those small things. But
Yeah,
those
yeah.
birds try
Like
birds.
large berries, like large, almost like hanjeer.
Yeah. The birds try and eat it. The birds try and eat it, or they spit it out. But
So,
I was today morning walking at the survey and Survey of India thing, and there's a symbol tree there. And I was with my friend, and we started looking there, and I quoted this today itself, right, to him. And we were just standing and looking at the birds, and I'm wondering, why do these birds keep coming back always? If they know that this fruit is worthless, why do they keep coming back? Habit.
well, that's humanity. Human beings are like that. Advik has a question.
Yeah.
Advik?
Advik, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question was that Guru Nanak Dev Ji entered the Medina, but only real Muslims could enter Medina. So how he entered?
Well, that's a good question. We will see that in episode number 21. It's not a question of how he entered. Look, we are talking about 550 years back. You know, every religion today is becoming harder in their boundaries, okay? 550 years back, it was hard, but it's not that it's not doable, right? But we will talk about it that in the documented text comes down his companion who traveled with him, Bhai Mardana, who used to play the rabab he was from Punjab, and he was a Muslim, so he traveled with him. But he did go inside and he checked whether things would be okay, and he came back and took him inside. Now the texts are silent. How did he actually get inside? But you know what? I don't think 550 years back it was so hard and fast. It's the kingdoms that are actually honing the sites now and making the hard. It goes with every faith. You know, every faith is becoming hardened. So I think that's probably the reason.
Yeah, it's also the season for the Semal blossom. It's a coincidence that our
Yeah, yeah,
episode
it
today
is.
is with the blossom of the Semal tree.
It'll end with that. So watch out for the end. It's one of my favorite verses, right? So
Lovely.
Sir, sir,
yeah,
I think you gave the example like Guru Nanak Dev Ji was going with someone, right? He was a Muslim. But the same thing happened with Gandhi Ji. His companions were also Muslim. They entered Medina, but Gandhi Ji didn't. He wasn't allowed, na?
yeah. So look, again, I'm telling you that the 550 years back, 5 centuries back, right? Or 6 centuries back, things may not have been so hard, right? We have known that for long time that they don't allow. We know that. But having said that, as the rules are so hard today, I think there would be a bit more flexibility. By the way, I'll tell you something interesting. Since we did this docu series, and when you'll see the episode 21, we have traveled every place. The only place that I could not go inside was Mecca. All right. So we've traveled to every site to do the filming across 9 countries. But me, because the way I look, could not go inside. My Muslim team actually went inside and they did the job and they came out. It was not easy. And you'll see that in episode 21 when we present it. But what I'm trying to say here is as I've done it and my content has gone out, and I've been contacted by many non-Muslims who secretly have told me that they have gone inside. Now they've gone inside secretly, and they've shown me photographs. So it's not that people are not entering. People are entering, but they are probably disguising themselves as saying that they are Muslims. So there are ways to get inside. By the way,
Thank you, sir.
yeah. Sound is not there. Sound is not there, and also please
Just
switch off.
one second.
Yeah, switch off the subtitles also because we
Yeah,
already
yeah,
have it
yeah.
baked in.
He wanted to see all people in the same platform, no discrimination based on religion, sex, caste, or anything.
Did you get it finally or no?
Yeah. Voice is coming now. Play.
Yeah. So I think you should get it now. Should I play it?
Yeah. It's not coming.
What's the reason behind that is quite amazing why that's happening. Yeah, I'll just have a look, sort it out.
Sandeep, let me just share. Let me see if it works.
Can I try?
Sud Uddesham, seed of intent, presents the magnanimity of sharing with pure intentions, as illustrated by Guru Nanak, the righteous benevolent, in the backwaters of the lush Malabar.
Is it working?
Yeah, I can make full screen. Increase the screen, Jugji. Make it full screen. It's working fine.
Working fine. I think I've put full screen.
He wanted to see all people in the same platform, no discrimination based on religion, sex, caste, or anything.
एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निर्भय निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सबं गुर प्रसाद
साची सुत नाम नहीं तृपते हों मैं करत गवाया पर तन पर नारी रात निंदिया था बिख खाई दुख पाया.
Discontent is the foundation of negativity, which in turn feeds immoral actions. Even the most learned can fall prey to temptations. Life can be a fulfilling experience by building on virtue.
Sorry, something. Hang on.
Should I try, sir?
Yeah.
In present times, due to political reasons, it is not possible to travel by sea from Sri Lanka to India. Hence, to retrace Guru Nanak's footsteps, we fly from Sri Lanka to India and continue our journey from Dhanushkodi. According to mythology, to safeguard his kingdom from enemies, Vibhishan, the new king of Lanka, requested Ramchandra to destroy the Setbandh bridge on his return. Ramchandra broke the bridge with arrows from his bow. Thus the name of the spot came to be known as Dhanushkodi, meaning the end of the bow. It is a metaphor for breaking the shackles of negativity in order to preserve positivity.
Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana, on their return from Sri Lanka, landed at the port of Setbandh in India, which is also known as Dhanushkodi.
From Dhanushkodi, Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana travelled to Rameshwaram, Trivandrum, Kottayam, Annamalai Hills, Bidar, Nanded, and reached Daulatabad. From Dhanushkodi, they first visited Rameshwaram. Retracing Guru Nanak's footsteps, we now travel from Dhanushkodi to Rameshwaram and visit the Ramanatha Swami temple.
Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunadaya Nadaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha Shri Ramachandra Swamine Namaha.
The name of this city of Rameshwaram in Sanskrit means the Lord of Ramchandra, denoting Shiva. According to the epic Ramayana, Ramchandra prayed to Shiva here for absolution for any wrongdoing he may have committed in the war against King Ravan. It is believed that at this temple, Ramchandra, along with his wife Sita, installed the iconic representation of Shiva, a shivling made from a black stone brought from Sri Lanka.
Rameshwaram is one of the most revered pilgrimage sites of the Shaivite tradition. Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana, on their return from Sri Lanka, visited this city to have dialogues with the yogis.
During a discourse, the ascetics questioned Guru Nanak why, as a follower of Nirgun, the formless, he had come to the Ramanatha Swami temple, where the divine is worshipped in the form of Shiva. In reply, Guru Nanak sang,
एक निरंजन गुरमुख जाता, दूजा मार शब्द पचाता, एको हुक्म वर्तै सब लोई, एकसते सब उपत होई, राह दो मैं खसम को जान, गुर के शब्द हुक्म पछान, सगल रूप वर्ण मन माही, कहो नानक एको सलाई।
Guru Nanak addressed the dilemma of the yogis by presenting his philosophy of monism. Endorsing his belief in unity, he said that there is one supreme, formless, omnipresent, unifying force. He clarified that his intention to visit the temple was to interact with the spiritualists. We now visit the site which was established in the memory of Guru Nanak as Nanak Udasin Math in the early 19th century by Chandu Lal, a minister in the Nizam state of Hyderabad. In the mid-1970s, this site, which is now a large Gurdwara, was handed over by the Udasin Mahant Narinder Das to the Sikh community of Chennai. The management committee has maintained the memorial made by Mahant Narinder Das. Guru Nanak's philosophy was and is invisibly housed in the hearts of many, but the precept of visible divisions limit unity. The invisible, formless, omnipresent leaves much affirmation of its underlying existence through numerous visible forms. Connecting one of these forms with another through sensory organs is evidence of unity. It is the mind which plays the game of misconceptions.
सहस तव नैन नन नैन है तोहे को, सहस मूरत नन एक तोही, सहस पद विमल नन एक पद, गांध बिन सहस तव गांध, एवा चलत
From Rameshwaram, Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana travelled along the sea coast and reached Trivandrum, the present-day capital of the state of Kerala. Trailing in Guru Nanak's footsteps, we travel from Rameshwaram to Trivandrum. The city of Trivandrum takes its name from the word Thiruvantapuram, which means a place of the infinite, referring to Lord Vishnu, the deity who is known as the sustainer in the Hindu Trinity. Shri Padmanabhaswamy Temple, dedicated to Vishnu, is one of the many revered sites across India which attracts Vaishnavite pilgrims. There is no physical commemoration of Guru Nanak's visit to Trivandrum. From Trivandrum, Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana travelled to Kottayam. In Guru Nanak's footsteps, we travel from Trivandrum to Kottayam. The city of Kottayam in the state of Kerala is established amidst a network of rivers. It is famous for the backwaters which feed into the Arabian Sea. In Kottayam, Guru Nanak was hosted by a commune of yogis.
Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana visited the city of Kottayam. In a dialogue with the ascetics, Guru Nanak emphasized on the importance of sharing.
According to a narrative, the yogis gave a sesame seed to Guru Nanak and asked if he could share it amongst the commune. Probably they wanted to see if Guru Nanak would respond by performing a miracle. Guru Nanak's uniqueness was in his ability to explain the essence of a concept through practical examples. He pounded the tiny sesame seed with some additional ingredients, making enough quantity to share with the commune. Expounding on the principle of sharing, he said, if the intent is to share, then the quantity of what is to be shared is irrelevant, be it sharing material things or knowledge.
Jai guna hovan sajna mil saj kari jai saj kari jai guna keri chod avgana chaliye.
Pandit Tara Singh Narottam mentions in the text entitled Guru Tirath Sangrah that in the memory of Guru Nanak's visit, the Udasin sect had established a Tilganji Sahib Gurdwara in the region of Kottayam. This shrine was also known as Kundi Kutalam. In present times, there is no trace of this site. Influenced by Guru Nanak's voice against caste system, in the early 20th century, around 300 native families of Kerala state had chosen to embrace Sikh identity and philosophy. This community has slowly dwindled in numbers. We visit the home of Lieutenant Colonel Lakhveer Singh, a native whose ancestors had embraced Sikhism.
Guru Nanak Dev Ji is a universal teacher. He had his own philosophies. He was against ritual practice and he got into the core of spirituality. He wanted to see all people in the same platform. No discrimination based on religion, sex, caste or anything.
Lieutenant Colonel Lakhveer Singh is probably the last of the native Sikhs of Kerala. From Kottayam, Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana travelled north and reached Annamalai Hills, which are located at the border of the states of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Trailing in Guru Nanak's footsteps, we travel from Kottayam to Annamalai Hills. This region is heavily forested with valleys and riversides. In the lower slopes of these hills lived the indigenous tribe known as Kadan, which means the Lord of the Hills. The Kadan people are said to also be called Koda. Keeping minimal contact with the outside world, they had become temperamentally insular. Perhaps the most ancient inhabitants of South India, these small-bodied, thick-lipped, frizzy-haired people lived on jungle produce and sheltered themselves in caves or under sheds made from foliage. When Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana were passing through these hills, they ventured inside the forest in search of food. Presuming they were intruders, a member of the Koda tribe took Bhai Mardana as a captive. Before they could harm him, Guru Nanak explained the reason for their visit. He said, "Fear gives the power to overtake thoughts and decisions. Since we are all part of one ecosystem, then why be fearful of fellow beings?" Recognizing the sincerity in Guru Nanak's words, the members of Koda tribe released Bhai Mardana. Fascinated by Guru Nanak's words, the Kadan people are said to have become less insular and more liberal.
सगलिया पौ लिखया सिर लेख नानक निर्भौ निरंकार सच एक
From Annamalai Hills, Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana travelled to Bidar, a hilltop city in the northeastern part of Karnataka state. Tracing Guru Nanak This region was once a dense bamboo forest, and the name of the city of Bidar is derived from the word Bidiru, which means bamboo. For about 200 years, Bidar was under the rule of the Bahmani Sultanate, a Persianate Muslim state in Deccan of South India. By the early 16th century, at the time Guru Nanak reached Bidar, the rule of Bahmani Sultanate was in decline, and the region had come under the indirect influence of Amir Baird Shah. This city is dotted with many remnants of the rulers of that period.
हर बिन क्यों तेरे मन मेरा कोट कलप के दुख बिनासन साच देड़ाए न बेरा.
Insecurities manifest the desire for power. To fulfill this alter ego, people disempower others by physical warfare or through psychological aggression. Witnessing these magnanimous, dilapidated monuments, once created to assert strength, what do I learn from them? Guru Nanak says, grievances caused by alter ego can be comforted by realizing that desires are momentary manifestations. Hence, efforts should be directed for the mind to seek harmony. We visit the historic Nanak Jhira Gurdwara in Bidar. It is heartwarming to see that members of all communities pay respect at this Gurdwara.
The water spring at the Bidar Gurdwara memorializes Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana's visit to this city. The Sikhs and Hindus call it as Nanak Jhira and the Muslims call it as Chashma-e-Shahadat.
The two mausoleums next to Nanak Jhira Gurdwara in Bidar are said to be that of the Muslim faqirs Jalaluddin and Sayyid Yaqub Ali. During their interactions, the four spiritualists discussed the biases and perceptions held by people of their respective faiths. In ego, people glorify their own religion by undermining other belief systems. This group mentality separates and classifies people, restricting their ability to see the oneness and interconnection of all humanity.
जल थल जिया पुरिया लोआ आकारा आकार होए जे आखे सो तू है ना पे तेरी सार नानक भगता भुख सालाहन सच नाम आधार सदा आनंद रहे गुणवंतिया पछार गुणवंतिया पछार
Guru Nanak says he is in awe of those who, having understood the truth of unity, lead a blissful life. Continuing further north in Guru Nanak's footsteps, we made a detour, visiting Barshi to explore memories of Bhagat Trilochan, a saint whose philosophy was aligned with that of Guru Nanak's. Bhagat Trilochan was born in 1269 AD in the trader community of Vaishyas, which is one of the three upper castes of the Hindu caste system. There is no consensus as to Bhagat Trilochan's place of birth. Some historians claim he was a native of village Barshi in Maharashtra, while others mention that he was born somewhere in Uttar Pradesh but spent most of his life in Barshi. In Barshi, there is no temple associated with Bhagat Trilochan. An exponent of the revolutionary Bhakti movement, akin to his name Trilochan, meaning three-eyed, he had the spiritual vision to recognize vices within society. Bhagat Trilochan condemned ritualistic practices, including an undue focus on wearing religious garb and giving up family life as prerequisites to leading a spiritual life. He endorsed association with spiritualists as a medium to attain salvation. Even though they were born centuries apart, such was the similarity in the philosophies of Bhagat Trilochan and Guru Nanak that the Guru Granth Sahib, the sixth scripture, contains verses written by Bhagat Trilochan. In one of his verses in the Guru Granth Sahib, Bhagat Trilochan says,
Kaye japore, kaye tapore, kaye bilovo pani, lakh chaurasi jin upaye, so simro निर्वाणी काय कमंडल कापड़िया रे 68 काय फिराही बदत त्रिलोचन सुन रे प्राणी कण बिन गाहो के पाही.
Propounding on the insignificance of connecting with external practices at the expense of internal transformation, Bhagat Trilochan explains that such practices are deceptive to the self and to others. They are like threshing crops which have no grains. From Bidar, Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana headed to Namdev. After having made a detour to Barshi, we resume our journey in the footsteps of Guru Nanak. Named after Shiva, the Hindu Trinity god, attributed with destruction, Namdev is a town of antiquity which beholds many cultures. Emperor Ashoka, under his reign, left remnants of Buddhism. The Mughals brought Sufism during their rule, and Sikh history too has a footprint as the 10th Sikh Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, breathed his last in this town. In the outskirts of Namdev, we visit Mal Tekri Gurdwara, which is built in the memory of Guru Nanak's visit to Namdev. The word Mal Tekri comprises of two words, Mal meaning treasure and Tekri meaning a mound. It is said that Fakir Lakkar Shah, feeble of sight, was physically unable to walk, was taking care of the treasure on this mound. During his visit to Nanded, Guru Nanak met Fakir Sayyid Hussain Lakkar Shah. They had spiritual conversations at this place called Mal Tilla. Here stands the tomb of Fakir Sayyid Hussain Lakkar Shah and the Mal Tekri Gurdwara. Sensory organs facilitate experiential learning. I wonder if differently abled individuals are deprived of some facets of spiritual learning, or conversely, better equipped because of their so-called infirmities.
अनहद वाजय ब्रह्म पाव पाजय सगल दया परया प्रभ छाजय.
Human senses condition the mind with identities, which reduces the ability to feel the primordial vibrations of the soul, which unites every being. Ironically, the physically abled remain visionless due to attachment, crippled with hatred, and deafened by ego. Guru Nanak says that the state of Anhad, the self-emerging vibration which unravels the cosmic truth, is not dependent on sensory organs. Continuing further north in Guru Nanak's footsteps, we make a detour from Nanded and visit Hingoli to explore memories of Bhagat Namdev, a saint whose philosophy also was aligned with that of Guru Nanak's.
Jani drushti lago tuja saguna panash. Jani drushti lago tuja saguna panash.
Bhagat Namdev is a famous Maharashtrian saint who was born in 1270 AD in village Narsi. A calico printer by profession, he was from the Chippa community who were considered low caste. Even though he was born much before Guru Nanak, however, the two saints have been metaphorically living together as spiritual guides through their verses scribed in the Guru Granth Sahib, the sixth scripture. At Hingoli, we visit Aundha Nagnath temple, which is dedicated to Lord Shiva. This temple is also associated with an event of Bhagat Namdev. Legend has it that he was rebuked and barred by the upper caste Brahmins from entering the Aundha Nagnath temple. The sanctum is said to have rotated towards Bhagat Namdev as he sat outside the back wall of the temple in devotion. In my humble opinion, the narrative of the temple rotating is a metaphor for the omnipresence of the Creator, also encompassing.
ये जो मंदिर है ये 12 ज्योतिर्लिंग में से 8वां ज्योतिर्लिंग है नागेशम दारुका वने। यहाँ संत नामदेव महाराज गुरु करने के लिए आए थे। वो पूरब की दिशा में अपना भक्ति संकीर्तन कर रहे थे, तो उनको मंदिर के पीछे भक्ति कीर्तन करने के लिए कहा गया। तो जैसे जैसे वो भक्ति कीर्तन करते करते पूरब से पश्चिम जा रहे थे, उनका भक्ति कीर्तन सुनने के लिए भगवान शिव जी ने, नागेश्वर भगवान ने अपने मंदिर का मुंह पूरब से पश्चिम तरफ घुमाया है। ये यहाँ का स्थान महात्म्य है। नामदेव महाराज जी यहाँ महाराष्ट्र में बहुत बड़े वो संत होके गए हैं और उन्होंने भक्ति मार्ग से ईश्वर प्राप्त हो सकता है ऐसा कहा है।
देहि महजिद मन मौलाना सहज निवाज गुजारे बीबी सौकयन तेरा निरंकार आकार भगत करत मेरे ताल छिनाए कह पह करो पुकारा नाम का स्वामी अंतर जामी फिरे सगल वेद
Bhagat Namdev says, we are made of the same substance. The duality or otherness resides in one's perception. Bhagat Namdev is a pioneer of the Varkari tradition from the Bhakti school of thought. He became widely known throughout India for his devotional songs. Bhagat Namdev was a strong believer of pantheism or the philosophy of Nirgun, of a formless creator, and Sargun, the creator manifesting in form.
फिरविले देऊळा जगा माझी ख्याती जगा माझी ख्याती नामदेवा हाती दूध प्याला नामदेवा हाती दूध प्याला फिरविले देऊळ जगा माझी ख्याती जगा माझी ख्याती
देवा तुझा माझा कारवैरा कारे देवा तुझा
Bhagat Namdev's legacy is remembered in modern times by his devotees. For ages, his philosophy has continued to attract individuals from diverse classes and castes, manifested in the devotional singing congregations. From Nanded, Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana headed to Daulatabad. Having visited the sites associated with Bhagat Namdev, we resume our tracing of Guru Nanak's footsteps and proceed to Daulatabad. The city of Daulatabad is in the state of Maharashtra. It dates back to 1000 BC and is famous for one of the largest rock-cut monastery temple complexes in the world.
The remains of Ellora caves in Daulatabad give a glimpse that Hinduism, Jainism and Buddhism were prevalent in this region since ancient times.
Earlier ruled by the Yadav kings, Daulatabad was initially known as Devagiri, the hill of gods. In 1322 AD, it was renamed as Daulatabad, the city of fortunes, by the Delhi Sultan, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the ruler famous for eccentricity and bizarre policies. With a desire to rule the whole of India, his inhumane decision to shift the capital from Delhi to Devagiri and then back to Delhi resulted in thousands perishing during the ill-conceived journey.
ज्यों आरण लोहा पाए पनकड़ाहिए त्यों साकत जोने पाए पावे पावाये.
Power, especially when unchecked and desired absolutely, is corrupting. The need to control is an indication of an individual's feelings of insecurity and fear of losing possessions. Guru Nanak says, akin to the recasting of iron, we humans are destined to re-encounter the same dilemmas until we learn lessons from our actions. Guru Nanak probably chose a route to pass through this city because of its historic religious and political affiliation with people and cultures of diverse backgrounds.
The Sufi shrines in Daulatabad are a testimony that this town was once an entry point for Islam to spread through Deccan and South India.
In Daulatabad, there is no physical commemoration of Guru Nanak's visit to the region. Guru Nanak, through the power of his words, challenged injustice and advocated human rights, values which were carried forward by the later Sikh Gurus. The district of Aurangabad is the resting place of the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, who is known for religious oppression. Guru Tegh Bahadur, the ninth Nanak, stood up for the fundamental principle of freedom of thought and belief. For this democratic choice, he was executed in Delhi under the order of Emperor Aurangzeb. Witnessing the tomb of Emperor Aurangzeb, I was reminded of Guru Nanak's verse, which draws contrasts between humility and false ego. Guru Nanak compares the worthlessness of human life, which is doused in self-conceit, to that of a simmal tree which stands tall but is incapable of bearing tasteful fruit.
Semal rukh sareer मैं जन देख पुलन से फल कामना भनी ते गुण में तन हन.
So, Amardeep, one of the fascinating this full process is one is visiting, a lot of different religious, one is not visiting, one is getting acquainted with a lot of religious traditions in different parts of India. And I mean, in just this one, you saw the difference, let's say in Kerala, last one in Tamil Nadu, Sri Lanka. Now you come up, and just the diversity of India, comes through so beautifully, in what you've sort of put together. That's very, very fascinating. Very, very fascinating.
I mean, it's not. If you, my view is that if you see it from the contemporary times, yes, what we see is the diversity of India. But step back and go back to that time when these people are traveling. The diversity of traditions is what fascinates me. And how, in spite of such diverse thought processes, diverse philosophies, how is this person, Guru Nanak, trying to integrate a thought process of oneness, right? And when I look at us as a society today, I mean, I'm not talking about Nanak's adherents, I'm looking at the entire society. It pains as to how it's all been fragmented. I'm sure it was fragmented that time also, but geographically, we were not so well connected to the extent in terms of travels. So we were kind of isolated. And here's a person who's making an effort to go to these places and bringing it through a dialogue. So I think that's a very fascinating aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. At that point of time to go in and as you said, to assimilate all this in the Guru Granth Sahib is amazing.
Yeah.
To get in the thoughts of so many different parts from different parts of India. And I mean, they all had independent thinking, but all of them in some ways converged as well. So,
Yeah.
Anybody, any questions? Yes, Sandeep.
Amardeep?
Yeah.
What I find very, very fascinating is that in the short stories, we see thousands of years go by. Now, when you try and explain from the Ramchandra days to Nanded of today, and you meet people across the country, what keeps people together to a faith? That's my question to you.
What keeps people together to a faith?
Yeah.
You want a cynical answer or you want a
Well, I want an answer. I thought this is very interesting because today you keep mentioning diversity, and every day we mention diversity as a phrase, but matter of fact is that oneness which you talk about and diversity which we talk about, is that it?
I think I think this is a true answer, which I'm projecting as a cynical answer, right? But take it whichever way. The only thing that keeps people together to a faith is their inability to comprehend it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. You measured your words. That's the beauty of it. So
it's a belief. Faith is a belief, right?
Yeah.
Belief is without rational.
Yeah. So
and when you look at a person, when you look at a person like Buddha or Nanak or Kabir, very rationalistic, very rational people, very rational, boxed in a group of people who are bounded by belief. So your inability to think rationally is what keeps people to faith.
So does that mean belief and faith are the same coin?
Of course. Belief is someone tells you, believe in this. You don't rationally think about it, right?
Yeah. So does it mean that most religions are actually rooted to faith and not to spirituality?
When you go to spirituality, rationality will come in. You will question. You will question rituals. You will question everything. You will even question why. What is the God concept? You'll start questioning and you'll find deeper meanings inside it. You'll find satisfaction. But when you look at it superficially, faith, belief, that's it. The more deeper I don't mean to offend anyone. Please don't get me wrong. I'm having a very honest conversation. The more I have gone into these things, the lesser I believe. The lesser is my faith.
Just say that again.
Yeah.
The more I get into these things,
the
lesser I believe, and the lesser is my faith. But I think I'm moving towards, at least, I'm not trying to be egoistic here, but I'm trying to rationalize everything.
That's a good one. So, Jugjeev, today's interesting question could be in the reflection, what does faith mean to you? A very simple question.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
could be interesting question for people to think. And Amardeep, you'll be quite surprised that the kind of thoughts sometimes once in a while people write, it makes us think that what you're showing us does make them use something up there.
I'm glad.
Suddenly after 3-4 weeks, you will see 3-4 reflections come. Now, why this lead lag
I'm glad.
happens, for example, we are so passionate about our curriculum and time frame, but schools have so much happening that they can't sometimes keep up with our pace of episode after episode of My Good School. So, but what we are finding that large number of these sessions are actually replayed and used when they have time, particularly in boarding schools. That's where we are finding a lot of thought process happen. And the last few months, when I've connected with school leaders, I've connected with too many. In fact, this is a season for us for renewal of the alliance because the quarter of January to March, we try and get together our alignment of the next 25 schools we'll work with for the next 1 year. And most of the 25 schools this year, believe me, 18 renewed. So they do want to continue with this. And I think this is what the whole story is about, that faith keeps us going while rationality keeps us thinking. Am I right in assuming or summarizing like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I mean, in the corporate world, I always operated on one tagline on which the entire industry operates, right? Or entire leaders, the leadership should always operate on this one fundamental principle. And spiritual leaders are also leaders in their own might, right? They're, in fact, more profound leaders, right? But the corporate leaders should be always operating on defining reality. And defining reality is rationality. What the situation is, what you're defining it, right? You're giving a model to it. You're defining it. This has to be definition has to be backed by rationality, defining reality and giving hope. That's how the world works.
Absolutely. So I think that's a very good sentence to cap, defining reality and hope. So, Jugjeet,
giving
can we
hope.
have a few questions if someone has, or we've held Amardeep for
Any
a long
children,
time.
any children who have any question? I mean, I would love to
There's
hear
so
if
many.
anyone.
I'm sure Ela ma'am will have something to ask. She's another very passionate attendee. Kunal, you want to ask something? Advik, I'm sure you'll have something.
It's not a question. It's an idea of mine also. I always feel that like Amardeep sir is there, Jugjeet sir is there, or you are there, or I'm there. We have been carrying a good tradition to pray twice a day or to visit any shrine or gurdwara or temple. Our children do not have this. How are they going to keep oneness then? And even the children, they are not one with their parents. How to go ahead?
Pradeep, you have to answer this. I think you are the most spiritually elevated.
Don't give much thought to it. Don't give much thought to it. It creates, it sustains, it destroys. That's what the energy that we are trying to worship or pray, right? We are giving gratitude. That energy has its own ways of doing things. Just play your role. You're here for a moment in this world. You'll go away. No one will care about it. Why you came here, no one bothers about it. No one knows. We are living in an absurd world. Our existence is absurd. We are trying to give it a meaning, a purpose, right? Let's play our role of giving it a meaning and a purpose now. Don't think too much. Let's anchor on morals. Let's anchor on morals. Morals are time immemorial. You're going to a temple or a gurdwara or a masjid or anywhere is a definition that maybe in your minds, the world is evolving, the society is evolving. The energy will take care. Don't worry. What really matters is the morality. The rest will change.
Yeah, that's very beautifully said. Jugjeev, I think that's the way we should add up to the conversation here and let Amardeep go. I think we kept
Thank you, sir.
too long. Ila ma'am, I'm sure that satisfied you. It says it's our karma which
Definitely,
we have
sir.
to keep doing. As a teacher, this is your challenge. Why do you keep teaching even if no one listens? So the same story. You just keep going. You just keep doing.
A lot of my friends ask me, why the hell did you make this encyclopedia? Who cares about it? Who cares about it? Right? Well, Ila, the fact is you sang through for 45 minutes. There are some mad people like you who do care about it. That's it. Let's play our role. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, Amardeep, we have 180 episodes of My Good School today. I'm sure there's some mad people who keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
All right.
Nisha,
thank
we said
you.
180. What is the number today?
Okay, bye-bye, huh?
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks a lot, Amardeep.
Bye.
Really
Thank you so much.
appreciate. We'll
Thank
connect
you.
offline for
Bye.
April,
Bye.
but second or third week, either one of them,
Yeah.
we'll
I'll let you
connect
know.
off.
I'll let you know.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Congratulations, sir, for complete 9.
Ma'am, how many
So,
episodes is that?
1.
Yeah. Jugji, you'll read on?
say that again.
Yeah, you will complete the chapter which you're reading.
The chapter the yoga, a lot of it is left. I think we'll read, maybe a few pages.
Yeah, you can do that. You have time. It's 12. You can read for 15, 20 minutes at least.
Yeah. So, we began this book last time, the door-to-door bookstore, and it started with a bookstore called City Gate, and it's a city in Germany. And the opening scene was really around what Sandeep confirmed was the reason why a bookstore exists, so that people can come and ask the question or ask for recommendation to read. So that's the reason why a bookstore exists. And the Sabine, who is currently running it, is not really able to answer this lady uh, in a satisfactory manner. And luckily, at that point in time, Carl walks in, and Carl is the protagonist in this book, and he's able to answer her satisfactorily. And then we also have an uh, interesting anecdote around how Sabine's I think grandfather it is or father who Carl has worked with, how they try and entice people to start to read because they get these interns and they were not interested in reading, give them a boring task and put a book which might interest them close to them, and they get interested in reading. So Leon, who's there, he has found that his daughter, after doing, sorry, his sister, uh, after doing an internship over here, has become interested in reading, and that's how it happened. And the boring task they give them is to sort of wipe the dust off some cards, and they're doing that, and an interesting book is lying close by. So it got me to think about how I got involved with reading first. And maybe you all want to share that, but I remember that I went to Wellham Boys School at the age of 7, and end of the year they used to give us prizes if you if you topped your class in some subject, and overall if you topped. So I remember getting this book called The Secret Mountain, Enid Blyton, as a prize, you know, when was in Vellum Boys. And I think in the holidays on just day when I was just bored doing nothing, I just started to sort of said, okay, let's try and see what this is about. And that's how I got involved in reading. It was just that one book, and then I mean, I must have read all Enid Blyton's at that point of time, which I could lay my hands on. So I remember that's how I got interested in reading. I was just sort of, just an event. Anybody else? Any thought? I mean, what are your stories? How do you get involved with reading? Sandeep, you obviously grew up in a bookstore, so you had books all around. But did that naturally mean that you would start
So,
reading?
Jujib, this is a very interesting question you asked. It took me a while, and my mother really had to nag me till the age of 10. And because I saw my mother and reading, it's not even my father, because my father with his selling newspapers and books and magazines, everything, perhaps had no time to see whether his son was reading or not. So it's purely, yes, it was difficult to start with, but I only got reading at about age 10, 11, which is where we see most of the good school happens. And that's precisely why I realized that today, the challenge we face is that we don't see people reading. And like even in Amardeep's documentary, they said that when you see things around, you imbibe. And this is the challenge we face. What I'm very reading is something very fascinating currently. It's called The Bookshop. It's a huge book. It's about 300 pages. After a long time, I took the courage of buying a 300-page hardback to read. I bought it for $65 the other day. Huge book. So and it's a book about book selling and what book selling did in America. So in that case, every bookshop example they have given is purely because there was one fanatic who was committed. And he never thought that people will read or people will not read. He just set it up for the pure love of it. And a lot of these bookshops in America has, by the way, largest concentration of bookshops even today, per capita, per community, per head. And the beautiful part behind every bookshop is there was a person who had an idea. Let's take the Black movement. It was championed through bookshops. Let's even take this communism. It was championed through bookshops in America. And a whole lot of ideas in American history in 200 years, you will see actually originated from the neighborhood bookstore. So that's the role of a bookstore. Now, when I look back my history, and when I try and put that way, if it had not been for my mother who had introduced me or whom I saw reading, perhaps I would have not read. And what really got me excited was when we were at school and young. So I could read pornography without telling anyone. I'm giving you something very funny today. And so it doesn't really matter. And those days when you were teenagers, so the books gave you a new kind of high. Arey wah, ye book mein ye hota hai. So I remember when I used to go back after my summer holidays, I had to tell something to Sanjeev Prasad and Ashwini Handa. So that it's a simple thing that I know that I'm speaking something very embarrassing today after so many years, but it got me to read. It got me to read Harold Robbins at the age of 12. So, this is what I tell people, that it's not about what you think the book does to you or has done for you, but it's an experience which everyone finds it different. And yes, definitely, it's not just the bookstore, it's the culture at home. It's the whole idea of having books at home that made all the difference. So if you see in this case also, Carl's life has gone by breathing books. And in this case, because he breathes books, he's able to champion them in the same way. And you see, go back to your school days, If I look at the teachers who read, it's like recently, Dwaita Datta used to be in Vellum Girls' School. She was there, and every book in the library she knew, she could tell every child, go read this, as simple as that. Now, similarly at the bookstore, like I mentioned earlier in the show, that when people walk in, we know what we can sell to them. And this art is what Carl is espousing. He knows what everyone can read or should read. That's the beauty. Thank you, Jugji. I keep going on these bookstore stories and they're too long. Thank you for your time.
No, I think this will keep happening because it's fascinating. You made another point which the book which old Gruber believed. It's important that they read, not what they read. And at least last time we all thought, no. It matters what you read, but you're just saying, agreeing with old Gruber, it doesn't matter what you read as long as you read. So, yeah. Okay, so let's start reading. Carl called it his round, although it resembled more of a polygon around the city center, without right angles or symmetry. The path traced by the ruins of the old city wall, standing like stumps of teeth in an old man's gums, was the boundary of his world. For 34 years, he had not set foot outside it. Everything he needed in life lay within its borders. Karl Kohlhoff spent a lot of time walking and he spent as much time thinking as he did walking. Only when he was walking could he think clearly. Perhaps his footsteps on the cobbled streets were one thing that could set his thoughts in motion. A person walking at ground level might not notice it, but every pigeon and every sparrow knew the city was circular. Every old house and alleyway was oriented towards the minster, the cathedral which rose majestically in the center. If the city had been a part of a model railway, you would say the minster had been built to the wrong scale. It dated from the short period in which the city had become very rich, a period that had come swiftly to an end before the minster could be completed, leaving one of the towers truncated still. The houses stood reverentially around the minster. Some of the oldest roofs even leaned at a deferential angle. They kept a respectful distance from the main entrance, allowing space for the largest and the most beautiful square in the city, Münsterplatz. As Karl stepped into the square, the feeling crept over him, as it had on previous occasions, that he was being watched, like a deer in a clearing, standing helplessly in the hunter's sights. He had to smile. In no other respect could he have been accused of resemblance to a deer. The aroma of the city was its most intense in Münsterplatz. Münsterplatz is really a square in front of the church. In the 17th century, the city had been besieged, and according to local legend, a baker had created the sugared wheel, a donut in the shape of a spoked wheel, filled with chocolate cream and sprinkled with powdered sugar. He took it to the besieging army, an edible message that they should leave. In reality, the calorie dense confection had not been invented for a further 200 years, a fact backed by documentary evidence. But the old story continued to thrive, and the city's visitors were eager to believe it. Apparently, donuts were invented sometime in the 1800s I think by the Dutch, who went to the US or something like that. Let me see. Yeah, 17th or 18th century, Dutch immigrants to the US. Yeah, that's how they were. Every day, Karl trod the exact same cobblestones of Münsterplatz in slow, even paces. If there was even a person in the way, he would wait, increasing his stride afterward to regain the lost time. He had mapped out his route across the square so carefully that it could even be followed on market days. He had also ensured it traced a course that maximized his distance from the square's four bakeries, since he could no longer stomach the smell of the hot, greasy, sugared wheats. He turned into Beethovenstrasse, which, in all honesty, was no more than an alley, not at all worthy of the great composer. An entire district had been named after famous composers, courtesy of an employee at the planning office who had wanted to make his own mark. The wider street had been reserved for Schubert, the employee's personal favorite. Although Karl Koloff was not aware of it, he stood at that moment at the exact center of his world. It was bordered on two sides by tram lines, the 18 and the 57. In fact, the city only had 7 tram routes, but it had been felt that higher numbers would add a nice metropolitan air, at least to its public transportation. On another side was the fast road from the north, and on the fourth was the river, which for most of the year was content to burble, which is murmur, picturesquely, and only surged to high water for a few days in the spring, rising to emit a modest roar like a lion cub with the underprivileged vocal cords. His first call of the day took him into a lane by the name of Saliergras, to the home of Christian von Hoenesch. A pedestrian hurrying by would not have noticed the dark stone villa's grandeur. It stood a step back from the other buildings, crouching like a hunched black swan, waiting for its moment to spread magnificent wings. Behind it lay gardens bordered by a square of gigantic oak trees, with 3 benches positioned to enable Christian von Hoenesch to read with the sun falling on his book at any time of the day. Karl was aware that Hoenesch possessed enormous wealth, but not that he was the richest man in the city. No one knew, least of all Hoenesch himself, who never compared himself with others. His family had made their fortune generations ago in the tanning trade by the river and succeeded in not losing it again during the Industrial Revolution. Christian von Honesch had no need to work. He allowed his shares and investments to work for him. He simply managed his wealth managers. A housekeeper came once a day to cook and clean the few occupied rooms. A gardener came once a week to trim the hedges and maintain the son's passage to his books. A caretaker service visited once a month, and from Monday to Friday, Karl came with a new book, while Christian von Hoenesch had usually finished reading by the following day. As far as Karl knew, Hoenesch had not stepped beyond the borders of his kingdom in an eternity. Karl pulled on the copper rod by the door, and a bell rang, a low note in the villa's interior. As usual, there was a pause while the householder walked the long, dark corridor. Then the heavy door creaked open, just a crack. Christian von Hoenesch never stepped outside. He was a handsome man, tall, dark-haired, with sculpted cheekbones, a striking chin, and a sadness that settled over his features like fine gray dust. As always, he wore a dark blue double-breasted suit with a fresh white orchid in the buttonhole, and his black leather shoes shone as if he was dressed for the opera ball. Hohenesch was much younger than his clothing suggested, barely 37 years old, but he had worn suits since early childhood, and they felt as natural to him as jeans did to others. Mr. Kolhoff, you are late. We had agreed 7:15, said Hoenesch, by way of greeting. Karl bowed his head in acknowledgement, then carefully reached for his backpack. I've brought your new book. He straightened the string's bow, which had shifted on the journey. I hope it lives up to your recommendation. Hoenesch took the book, but did not unwrap it. It was a novel about Alexander the Great, said during his time under Aristotle's instruction. Hoenisch read only philosophical books. He handed Karl a tip, calculated according to the book's weight, which he had researched in advance. Please be punctual again next time. Punctuality is the politeness of kings. Of course, enjoy your evening. Yes, I hope yours is equally pleasant. Christian von Hohenich closed the solid wooden door, and the villa once more appeared deserted. The master of the house would have loved to discuss books and authors in depth with Karl, whom he regarded as an educated, well-mannered man and a kindred spirit. But with the passage of time, the words of invitation had escaped him. Perhaps he had lost them among the many rooms in his grand home.
Give, sir.
Punctuality is the politeness
Yes,
of kings.
absolutely. I was going to say this. I called you for this only. Punctuality is the politeness of kings. I think this really fascinates. I actually wrote it down in my diary. Maybe we should.
It's actually a quote by Louis XVIII.
Okay, this one. So the beautiful part is we should possibly put this down as the most important quote from today's reading. I'm sure it'll encourage some thoughts.
Yeah. So, I mean, why? It's a quote by Louis XVIII, as I said, and obviously there could be many explanations to it, but it seemed to me, and that's not what I read, but it seemed to me that people are waiting on them all the time, right? So, if they show up on time, it's like being polite rather than making people wait. So that's what I figured. I don't know.
There's a whole chapter called The School Bell we read the other day. And you're talking about punctuality as to why we have a school bell. It's a whole chapter in the book, My Good School. And summary is that time management is what life is all about, how we manage our time.
Yeah.
It's not about how we live or what we do. It's how we manage our time. That is the most crucial part.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of, things we just sort of read. I mean, cobbled streets, for example, I mean, I was trying to think of examples in India of cobbled streets, right? I mean, it's a Roman concept I read.
You saw them in the documentary this morning, in the docu-series. That temple had cobbled street, the one where the sculptures.
Yeah.
You saw it was
correct.
If you look at it historically, that cobbled streets were done more because stone was so easily available.
Yes.
And even today, when you go to Europe, their sidewalks are cobbled. While when you come to the places like Singapore and the western part, there's just concrete poured there because that's quicker and it's cheaper.
Yeah. A few cities, where they basically no cars are allowed. That's where I think you have these cobble streets. I forget that street in Istanbul, I think, has it. And I think
you'll find it in hill station.
Small part in Goa.
No, even in Missouri, you had certain walkways which
Yeah.
So you'll find them
still there in Missouri.
Side. In the Landor side, there some walkways are still cobbled in Missouri.
Yeah, no, I mean it's fascinating. The other interesting thing he made was that he was always thinking while walking. I mean, I do it a lot also, right? I mean, I'm many times when I'm walking, I'm thinking. So that's also interesting to me that this guy is doing the same thing. I always try and do something else while walking besides walking, and sometimes it's just thinking and reflecting.
So often when one is lost in thought.
When do you think?
No, Jugiv, the interesting bit is like you just said, when you're lost in thought, you sometimes just look through others. You don't even see anyone. That's happened to me.
Yeah.
I just pass by someone and not even notice the person. I've walked through the person because I am deep in thought somewhere.
So when you do your morning walk, what do you do with the morning walk? Are you thinking? What are you doing?
Yeah, see, morning walk for me particularly, it's in the garden. So I'm always looking around and trying to understand the what's of the garden, how's of the garden. And so my thoughts are deep inside the garden at that time, as to why the stone is like that, as to will this tree need help, will this shrub need help. So my walk is in the garden. So it's actually attuned totally to the garden.
Right. Anybody wants to share how they started reading or any particular time that they think?
Kunal is here. I'm sure Kunal may have something to share. Advik, do you get to read? What are you currently reading? Today we have Rishona here. I wonder what she's reading nowadays.
She's been very quiet. I don't know.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, Vishwana, tell us, do you read? How did you start reading?
So I think for me it was something that was really natural because I've been around books from as long as I can remember, and I think my mother would be the person to thank for that because as an avid reader herself, she's always encouraged me to be around books and always reading them. So and I still have preserved few books from my younger age, like when I was 2 or 3 and when I just started going to preschool. So those little picture kind of books they have for children with very small text. I still have a few of them with me. So I can just look back through that and I still remember the times when I used to read them with my mother and with the help. And I think that was the point where I started to get really interested into the whole concept of reading. And then I think it became a sort of habit for me.
Vishwana, something interesting you brought up. I have the little books of my children of 2 to 5 years. And God willing, this year as grandfather, I'll give them to my daughter's kid who's going to be born. So I have kept those books so long. It's been a lifetime almost. Imagine at least 40 years or so one has kept those books. And they're still there, those little books, my first picture book, little board books. There's also a bath book which I have. So we've decided that we'll put in the hamper when the new child is born to the next generation. So that's how precious books are. They have memories, they have a whole lifetime, they have stories phenomenally. And that's the beauty. Jugib sir, in this book, in this chapter, how beautifully new vocabulary is added to us. If you look at the books at my good school, this book in particular, I'm finding it's giving us new vocabulary. Explaining.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the words you have, if you just flip back, they are fantastic vocabulary which has been added from various words in this book. Yes, because maybe some are German and they are translations, but even then, a lot of new words have been added today.
Yeah, I mean, the reverential, differential, to then there are many small, I mean, there are many actually.
Yeah, many words. I mean, that's what I noticed today.
Yeah.
Every
I mean, obviously some are German, Munsterplatz, and I mean, all those roads are called have a Strasse at the end. But yeah, absolutely. Burble. I didn't know this word burble before until I
that's
came
why I
across
said I
this.
heard so many new words today. I've read this book before, but then I heard them today. Maybe it didn't register me then. And that's the way we have to get vocabulary. Unlike where in grammar we are told, cram up words, see the meaning, and we don't remember and we don't cram. So when you flow with the book, you carry inadvertently it gets stored inside you. And I'm sure Rishona will tell you that these words pour out sometime when she's writing. And that's exactly what happens when I write. The word suddenly comes. It just comes from nowhere.
Yeah.
Just pops
In
out.
fact, in the book we were doing yesterday, at the Teachers Academy, there was this one word which I'd never come across earlier, unprepossessing. We read about it yesterday,
Yeah.
right? Which basically means not attractive or not making a good impression. And
Yes.
I had never come across that
The
word
possessive
earlier on.
word, yeah, possessive got lengthened.
The word by itself seemed a fairly normal, sort of a common word, but I hadn't come across it. The
So,
other
Manisha,
thing,
ma'am,
right, which I didn't really know that Alexander was actually was taught by Aristotle. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's history.
Which we just saw the book.
You want to pause here and put a bookmark, and Manisha can come?
Yeah, I think so. It's close to 12:30.
Yeah.
So
Manisha,
we
you want to
should
come in and summarize and add something you want to add? Anything you want to add? Yashona's here, Jugjeev. Maybe we want to talk about what we want to do as meet and greet next month. You should get the right side story. I think that's a good one.
Right. Yeah. That'll be a good one. Shona, you just go to their website, just look at those folks. I think there'll be lots of stuff. We've done bullying earlier, but there may be something specific you want to get into a little depth on in the meet and greet, because I
Yes,
think it should be.
I've looked through their website and all, and I think it'd be perfect for the meet and greet.
Right. Let her respond, and maybe you can jog her memory or whatever on that email trail. I don't think she's responded, right? But I think we have a little bit of time,
We
so
should message
that
Rishona the
should be
phone
good.
number. So let Rishona ping her. And
Yeah.
she will be, that's the way Rishona works best. When she pings with the guest before, she's able to create some fantastic conversations.
Yeah. No.
So
Shona does it really well.
I think Shikha is the person. There are two of them, Shikha Agniotri and Amit Nirulkar, I think. That's the second
I don't know.
one.
I just saw
Yeah, they're
Shikha.
two partners, both ladies. They're two partners. They had a fantastic video on their website where a lot of good schools and education people have said good about them. So do check them out. And they are very keen to come to our sessions and even become panelists. So they're good people. You should be able to do a lot of work with them.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Manisha, over to you.
Yeah, Jugjeev, one point, you may have noticed the Zoom link which comes to you this time is different from Leena's Zoom link, because Leena's Zoom link is fixed for 3 meetings, while this particular Zoom link is only for My Good School pre-Leena. So these, for the next 2 sessions, you'll have the same Zoom link. I thought I'd just cleared that out today.
Okay.
So we'll have the same Zoom link for 3 sessions, then Leena's, and then next month we'll create another set of 3.
Okay.
Over to you, Manisha.
Good afternoon, everyone. And we are going to do there'll be many reading sessions for the retreat, as I have received a few registrations. So I would like all of you, those who are present, and please tell your friends also, that give us some reflection points which we can think, and I'll just plan it our day during the retreat sessions. If you want something different, the reading sessions, there will be as same as what we have done in November also. So one for the teachers, one for the students. Service projects will be there. Sports is also integrated with the service projects. I'm looking forward if you have some new ideas which you want me to integrate with all existing sessions. So in case you have, please ping me, DM or write an email. It's like up to you how you want to contact me. Do let me know how we should be going ahead and what all contribution you all can do for the retreat. So you want to do something virtually, or you want to come in person and do something for the service projects at Arthafort Academy, do let us know so that we'll go and plan our day accordingly.
Manisha ma'am, Kunal suggested that we start meeting once a week now that the retreat is coming. So he mentioned this point yesterday.
True.
And in the retreat conversation in WhatsApp, I have tried to initiate a dialogue. About 7-8 people have said they want to attend the first meeting. So maybe if you have time tomorrow or day after, Monday or Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. because as of now, our Mondays and Tuesdays are free at 5:30. So at 5:30 on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it's feasible for you, we can actually host a small meeting and call these people who have said they would like to join. And then after they come and join,
Sure,
they
sir,
will
we
talk-
can.
yeah, because then they will be able to answer your question. I will help virtually. I will participate. I will contribute because that's the next question in the chat. First question is, let's have a meeting.
How
And
you
the
want
second
to.
question is
Yes.
how I can volunteer. So let's get on to the meeting, maybe Monday or Tuesday. Can you just check out what is the best time? How to do that is those 7, 8 people who have said they would like to attend, tentatively send them a message for 5:30 Monday or Tuesday and see where you get the more numbers.
I'll put up a message in the WhatsApp group and then we'll see how it works out for Monday or Tuesday afternoon, evening, 5:30. And we'll go ahead as per the conversation takes us to. And please, all of you, just a kind request that join for the meeting on Monday or Tuesday. We'll just put up a Google form or maybe just a message which day is more convenient. So as per everyone's convenience, we'll start a little interaction on either on a Monday or a Tuesday, whichever suits best for all of us.
Absolutely. So once you get the first Monday or Tuesday, you could repeat a week later. And the whole month you don't have
Okay,
anything on
we'll go
Monday and
accordingly.
Tuesday. So that's easy to do.
Exactly.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
go ahead
Deep sir,
accordingly.
look forward to the coming weekly. It's very exciting. A lot of content has gone into it. And you'll enjoy the next weekly. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful morning as
Okay,
always.
Thank you.
bye.
Bye-bye.
We will share the session
Bye.
recording for the people who would like to replay. Thank you.